started. Okay, recording started. Sorry for late. So welcome to our next video lesson. So it is engineering mechanics, and today's topic is a new topic. Of course, it is already we have discussed about the different topics in this one engineering mechanics subject, like force and moments and some supports and calculation of reactions, centroids and movement of inertial relations. Now let us discuss something more about the it is called. Let us discuss about the new topic, that is simple stresses and strains. So this is very again very basic, fundamental, and very important concept for the engineering, especially civil engineering. Right. So why it is required means to know, to calculate any capacity of anything. It may be load carrying capacity of a member, or it can load carrying capacity of beam or a slab or anything. So first of all, we need to know the how it can just load is it can able to how much load it can able to bear. Then only we can able to design that member accordingly. How much size it is required. Design means calculation of size, means knowing the dimensions. Okay, or deciding the dimensions. So how much dimension it is required, it is based on this only we can able to identify. Until unless we cannot we know what is the size, how to what is the how much load it can able to bear, or how what is the you can say stresses, that is strength of the member, or you can say the strength of a member. We cannot able to decide that whether it is how to how much load it can able to take. That is nothing but strength. Okay, so that is very important. To that point, the basic concept is simple stresses. How to calculate what is the stresses developed in that member for a particular type of load. Okay, there are different types of stresses are there. Okay, for what type of load, different type of load, different types of stresses are developed. So for a particular type of load, how the stresses are developed, right? Okay, if you take a vertical load and a beam, so it is what type of stresses are developed in that one. So how to design that member, that particular stresses. Okay, of course, not we are not covering any design criteria in this one. Only we are covering the how the stresses are developed in the member. Okay, only analysis part we can say. Generally, it is any structure means there is two parts. It is the analysis, and second one is the design. Right. So analysis means finding the what is the resistance, means how much load it can able to carry. That is nothing but simple words we can say analysis. Analysis means that is the basic. Okay, and design is nothing but for that load we can how to decide for a particular given load, how to decide what is the sizes required. That is nothing but design of it. So on completion of this period, you will be able to so define the stress. So what is stress? State the formula and units for stress. Okay. So stress means already so many times we need in general terms. We always so many times we use the term stress. Okay. It's like means always saying that okay, all day I'm stressed up. Just don't disturb me like that. Today I'm got very stressed because of heavy workload like that. We use the term stress every time now and then in daily life also. Okay, that is different term, different concept. It is a different way. Um, what is a we use that in some different way. That is a meaning little bit of different to that one. Okay, it is not that stress. Okay, so even though that word is same, it is a different scenario. Okay, in civil engineering point of view, we are going to discuss not about general terms stress. Okay. So when an engineer designs a structure, it is essential that you should have a concept of various forces acting on the structure. Right? So means if you are designing a structure, so you should know what are the different types of forces are acting. Okay, what are the different types of forces acting? So let us say, for example, if you take you are constructing a building. Okay, residential building. Let us say in somewhere, depends on location. Okay, let us say in Hyderabad, you are going, you want to construct a building, right? So if you are constructing a building in Hyderabad, so a residential building, okay, of a multi-story building, let us say a multi-story building, or a one or two story simple building, or okay. So in that one, what are the different types of loads? If we construct a multi-story building, that loads we may consider maybe little bit of more heavier loading is required. You need to consider, or if you are constructing just a ground floor building, so of course you need not the loads may be lesser. Not only quantity, the types of loads may be acting on the you may or may not required to consider, right? Suppose if you are constructing a multi-story building, generally what we are saying that you are constructing a, let us say, 10-story building or 15 or 20-story. Nowadays it is very common to common practice that it is going more than 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 floors buildings. It is very common. Okay, so in that cases you have to consider we different varieties of loads. Okay, varieties of loads means it is there can be generally the loads are as per our Indian standard code has specified some of the loads. Like first one is dead load, means self height. Okay, second one is live load or superimposed load, means which are act changes from time to time. Okay, so it depends on particular type of load, particular type of structure. There are different types of loads you can consider. How much load you have to consider, that will be given in IS codes, IS 875. And next one is wind loads. Okay, if it is height of the building increases, generally we need to consider the even for the wind loads also. If you are constructing very small residential building with the ground or G plus 1 or G plus 2, and with the area is having very plinth area built up, plinth area is very less than around 200 or 300 or 400, 500. Up to G plus 2, it is no way, no need to consider any what is called wind loads. But you are considering a 10-story building, it is required to consider. You need to consider the wind load. Okay, it is mandatory. You need to consider the wind load also, right? Or if you are constructing industrial structure, means having very large area. Okay, generally some parts are really exposed. Okay, very large area, and some parts will be exposed. So in that case also you need to consider the wind load. Okay, whereas it is very small structure, it is may or may not required to consider the wind loads. Like that. And the next one is snow loads. Okay, and in case of if we take the Hyderabad, it is no question of any falling of snow. Okay, very okay. Whereas if you are constructing any house in cases where snowfall is there, let us say in Kashmir or something like that area, if you go there, then when you are constructing a building there, means you have to be constructed to take care of the stone. You have to consider the snow consideration. Okay, whereas that is not required in Hyderabad. Right, that is one criteria. And next one is earthquake. So another important load is earthquake load or seismic load. Generally, it is again if you are constructing a very simple residential building of 1 or G plus 2 or G plus 3 structures, it may or may not require. Okay, it's not mandatory because of this load. This seismic load generally acts in horizontal. Okay, it's a horizontal load, so it will not have much effect on the having buildings having less height. Okay, so whereas if you are constructing a like a multi-story building, as we discussed, 20 or 10 or 20 or 20 floors, like that, more than 5 floors or even 5 floors also, it is you need to consider, because if it is structure collapses, there is a loss of life is very more higher. Okay, so loss of life is more. So that's why it is, whereas if you take a very small ground floor, the effect is also less, the loss is also less. Okay, if you consider unnecessarily, it becomes uneconomical. Whereas in multi-story buildings, you need to consider because the loss of life is there, loss of property. Okay, and obviously it is what is a safety point of view also you need to consider. Okay, so even that is required. That's why it is different possibilities, means where we have to, which type of load, where we have to consider, where not to consider, which load we have to consider it, appropriate loading, that is need to be very, very important. Okay, that should show a concept on this various forces are acting on this. Okay, and what type of force will create what type of stresses in that member. Okay, if you take dead loads, what type of stresses you get? If you like a it is a live load, what type of loads? Live load may be different types of that. So it is acting on the live load, what its effects on the structure. If you take a wind load, what is the effect of on the structure? Because of wind load, what is the different types of stresses that may develop in the member? Okay, if it is earthquake loads, are there, what are the different types of stresses that may develop in the member? Not only one member, if you take complete entire structure, okay, not even a beam or a slab, it is entire structure, how it affects, we need to study. Okay, so that concept should have the civil engineer, especially as a designer, should have this all these concepts. So main objective of civil engineer is to design safe and economical structure. So means if you are designing a structure, means that should be two criteria. It has to main two criteria. One is it should be safe. Okay, means it should be able to resist the loads whatever that comes on the structure, means it should be able to bear that load. And second one is also it should be economical. Okay, so without designing a safe building means without losing economy with not at the cost of economy. Okay, so the design means it should be safe and also it shall be economical. Okay, when there shall be an optimum consideration shall be there, as well as so that it shall be safe, as well as see that maximum possible extent it shall be economical. Okay, making economical. So it means that what is the design safe economical means, if you are designing a, let us say, beam or a slab area. So for design point of view, or it is only required to have a 150 mm thickness. If you are providing 200 mm thickness, means over we are say you are going in a factor of safety, more factor of safety, you are taking it as a got as a 200 mm thickness slab. Means instead of 150 mm providing, you are providing 200 mm slab thickness slab. That increases cost a lot. Okay, so that is a case of your civil engineering part, is that where the civil engineering role has to be very crucial. Means we are we provide instead of 200 mm, if you provide that 200 mm instead of 150 mm, it will be safer side, no problem. But as far as it is uneconomical, it becomes uneconomical. So that you need to consider. So see that at maximum, at minimum thickness means at minimum cost, see that it shall be safe. At optimum cost, it shall be safe. Safety and economy both has to be safe. At the same point you have to consider. Okay, like that the designer has to be take care of all these things. You should have adequate knowledge of the properties of materials and the behavior under various external loads. Properties of materials, of course, very important. Another, so properties of materials, the designer shall have the adequate knowledge, means sufficient knowledge. Okay, uh, on the materials, which material we are using, what the properties means like a strength. Okay, it may be compressive strength, it may be tensile strength, it may be shear strength. Okay, like different strength. Okay, tensile, compressive strength, how it is behaves under this load, what is the smallness of that one, means all these are nothing but properties. Okay, what is the creep or shrinkage value of that particular material, everything. So there is so many properties, so all these properties you should know. Okay, so knowing this, you should have sufficient knowledge on this all these properties of materials. Okay, and their behavior, how it behaves. If a particular member is there under external load, under tensile load, how a beam behaves. Okay, how a material behaves. Okay, so which material is suitable for which type of loading. If you take a concrete, for example, simple way, if you take a concrete, so it is a brittle material. Under tension load or bending loads, it is alone simple concrete, cement concrete may not able to take that load. It may fail abruptly, means suddenly. Okay, so that is not suitable for that type of load. Whereas if you take the steel, so it can take the steel, that compression or tension or bending, so it is equally almost equally strong in all type of loading. Like that, it is appropriate material selection also is very important under different types of loading. When an external force acts on a body, the body tends to undergo some deformation. Okay, so deformation means that is the first criteria, that is the member is subjected to any body. Okay, so on any body, if you apply load, the first criteria, that is the first thing that is happened is nothing but for that body is nothing but deformation. Okay, deformation. So deformation means if you apply and load, so it will tries to change its shape, size or shape or okay length or anything. That's change in some dimensions. That is nothing but deformation. Change in dimensions. So it's some sort of deformation. It starts in a body. Okay, whatever type of the body. Even the rigid bodies also we get some deformation. So even generally we are using the elastic. All are elastic bodies. So there is no perfect rigid body. So that's why it is every body undergoes some deformation under the action of external loads. Okay. So because of this deformation, what are the different types of forces that set up in the member? Okay. So stresses means what are the different types of stresses that will be set up on the different duty. Because some up to certain extent, if you apply a load, the member can apply some resistance. It means stresses will be developed, and that load it can able to bear that load up to certain extent. If you go on increase the load, they go on increase the deformation. At some point of time, it fails. Okay, that's why you should have an idea. You should know that undergo deformation. How much up to what extent you can able to the member can able to deform it. Okay, so we can able to make it so that deform and as well as safe. Okay, that you should have knowledge on this one. So effect of the forces on the bodies are to be studied. Okay, so effect of the forces on the bodies are to be studied. Means what type of forces, how it affects on the bodies to be studied. Studied means we should know, should have an idea about all these things. Okay, so how the forces affect on the bodies. Now let us come to the actual definition. What is stress? How we define the stress? When a body is subjected to external load, means some load is acting on a body. Okay, leave it about what type of load it is. So if some load is acting on the body, okay, some load. So if that load is acting on the body, there is the first criteria that first what happens to that body is nothing but the body tends to get deformed. Okay, tends to get deformed means tends to change. There may be change in dimensions or size or length or area, some deformation. It may get deformed, tends to deform. Maybe initially at some load it may not be able to deform, but if you go on increase the load, at certain point that deformation starts. Initially there may or may not deformation, right? So like if you take a steel, if you apply a load at one point of time, there will not be any. If you are very go on increase 10 kilo first. Let us say if you are applying a load of 10 newtons, there will not be any. There may not be any deformation. If you apply a load 20, they may apply 30, 40, 50, 60, 100, 200, 300, 1000 or 2000 newtons. At certain point, the body starts deforming. Okay, any member, okay, starts deforms. Okay, so likely to change its shape. So due to this deformation, there may be change in shape, okay, or change in length. Okay, so that is nothing but deformation. So first what happens if you apply load? So first what happens to that member? So it tends to get deformed. Okay, by virtue of strength it offers resistance against the deformation. By virtue of strength it offers resistance against deformation. Means if at all this body is having some resistance, if at all if it is having some resistance against, can able means if at all that body can able to take that load, means without deformation up to certain point it may or may not have some resistance. Means initially if you apply load, for example any member if you take, so initially it may not able to because the load may be very less. Okay, so if a member let us say fails at 100 kilonewtons, if you apply 1 newton, so there may not be any failure at all. Even there you don't find any deformation also. Okay, if you apply increase the load 1 newton to 1 kilonewton, then there may be very very light or even that is also may not be negligible deformation. But if you increase that 10 kilonewton to 20 kilonewton, 30 kilonewton, 50 kilonewtons, 50, 60, if you go on increasing, there may be increase in deformation. Okay, so but initially if you apply a load at certain load, so at 1 kilonewton, there may not be any deformation. Means what happened? Where is going that load? Okay, if you are applying a load on a body. So if you applied a load on the body, right? For example, if you apply a load on the body, 1 kilonewton applied on the body, right? So what body? What is the differentiation? So if you applied a load on the on your body, let us say there is no deformation. Let us assume that no deformation is you can observe a deformation in the body. But where is that load gone? Means whether you are not applied the load. Yes, we are applying the load, but where is that gone? It is gone. Where is that gone? But there will not be any deformation. So it may not able to deform the body because of the load may be very lesser. Why? Why it is lesser load not deforming? Means there is some resistance body. That body will offering some resistance against the deformation. Okay, the body will offering some resistance against the deformation. That's why you cannot able to see any deformation at all. Means if you are example, suppose if you take a rubber band. So if you take a rubber band, so initially if you are just you stretch it initially up to certain extent, so there will not be any, it will be straight only, there will not be any elongation or elongation. Once it is its elasticity if you continuously try to apply the force, means trying to pull the rubber band. Okay, so what happens? It elongates up to certain extent. There may not be any elongation because there may be, it is having some resistance against that load. Okay, once if the resistance go on increases, the resistance also increases. Okay, up to failure point, the resistance will go on increases. Once its resistance point of view is reached its breaking point, so it breaks. Okay, means you cannot able to resist that load, whatever the load amount of load we are going on increasing. At up to certain point, it can able to, it elongates, it deforms, but still it will be in if you remove the load, still it comes to its original position, right? Still it can able to take the load. So means there is some, this body will offer some resistance against the deformation. That we can say that by virtue of its strength, means internal resistance, by virtue of its nature. Okay, it offers some resistance against this deformation. Okay, up to certain extent it can offer. Consider a bar acted upon by a force P along its axis as shown in figure. So let us say, so a force is acting here. So it is nothing but a body is this one. So it is acted upon by a pull. Pull means pulling the member both away from each other, away from the member. Okay, that's nothing but pull. So if we take this a section cut into two at a section XX, if you see the free body diagram, FBD, we can call it as FBD. So it will be, so this force is in this case, it is free body diagram is nothing but showing all the forces acting on the member, including internal forces set up in the member due to this application of external forces. So if these are only two forces, one is acting one end here, another force is acting another end here. Let us say this body is in both forces P, means they are equal forces, right? So that body will be in equilibrium condition. Let us say it's a force, if you cut a section at XX, so it is subjected to, if we say it is a force subjected to P, and if you cut where the portion is cut off portion, so this is a portion where it is cut. So it is, if you see this, nothing but P dash is nothing but is all our forces which are acting opposite to the whatever the forces, that is applied force, acting opposite to the applied force. Applied force is in this direction, these forces are opposite direction. Okay, so opposite direction means so that the body will be in equilibrium condition. To maintain the equilibrium condition, they shall act in opposite direction only, right? So where it comes from, where this P dash comes, it's nothing but it's an internal resistance of the body. Okay, it's nothing but an internal resistance of the body. So that is nothing but P dash. Okay, so that will be for the equilibrium condition, that shall be equal to P. P shall be equal to P dash. Imagine a section XX cutting in the body into two parts A and B. As the body in equilibrium, parts A and B can be considered to be equilibrium under the external loads P. That's what we have discussed. The internal resistance offered by the bar, which should be equal and opposite to the P. Okay, so that is P dash. right? So it's nothing but what we are saying that, so this body, if at all this body is in equilibrium condition, then this P shall be equal to P dash. Okay, so that is nothing but what is P dash here? P dash not has come from anywhere. It is not an applied force. Okay, only P is applied force. P is applied at both ends of this member AB, right? And only at the end. But we are cut a section at a section XX from the away from its point A and B. Okay, between A and B, right? If you cut up this, if you see the cut portion, so a force is acting P towards left. Okay, because for symmetric point of view, I mean equilibrium point of view, or either we have to consider left or right portion. Okay, if you consider the left portion, so one force is acting towards the P, that is the external force. Obviously, for equilibrium condition, what it should be? For equilibrium condition, we have discussed equilibrium in force and moments in first unit. So for equilibrium condition, an equal force shall be developed, force shall act here at section XX, so that body will be in equilibrium condition. Okay, so where has that force comes from? It comes from its internal resistance. Okay, it offers by the internal resistance. The internal resistance offers, that member offers some internal resistance, means it will provide some additional force. Provide means there will not be any force which comes up because of, there maybe because of its self weight, or because of some, it is fixed maybe there due to it somewhere it is, or it is fixed from the point of a frictional resistance. Somehow that it is the body is offering some resistance. Okay, so that is nothing but this P dash. That internal resistance is nothing but P dash. Against this force, this body is acting, and this body is providing an internal resistance, that is nothing but P dash. Similarly, if you see the right side cut portion, so it's an external force P, and it is subjected to again this arrows P dash here it is showing. Okay, again it is showing towards the away from this. If this acting away from this way here, similarly for equilibrium condition, this side the forces shall be this direction. Then only the body will be in equilibrium condition, right? So that's why it is equal, and again this P dash again equal to P. Both shall be same. Then only the body will be in equilibrium condition, right? So that's what we have discussed here. Now let us go to the actual definition of a stress. What is stress? So it is nothing but an internal resistance offered by the body to resist the applied load or force. So internal resistance, we have seen that. So a body is applied, force is applied on a body, that will be in equilibrium condition. If we cut into two portions, so it is applying some resistance. Internal resistance is developed by that body, that is nothing but P dash. We have seen it. That internal resistance is nothing but force. Okay, the where it is force. Okay, where that internal resistance offered by the body to resist the applied load or force. But in this case, we are discussing the stress here. That's why it is per unit area. But it's unit area. It is a force acting on unit cross-sectional area. Okay, so actually it is here. It is one definition shall be, it is that it is the internal resistance offered by the body to resist against the body to resist the applied force per unit area. That is nothing but definition of a stress. It is per unit area. It has to be per unit area. Internal resistance offered by the body to resist the applied load or force per unit area. It's nothing but stress. Okay, so don't forget to write the per unit area. It is per unit area is not written here, so I will make a correction here. Okay, so it is nothing but here again you can see here. So it is the force acting on unit cross-sectional area. Okay, or force per unit area. So it is we can define in a step in such a way that, so it is the internal resistance offered by the material against the deformation. Again, one more thing, it is missed. It is not covered here. So think that it is the internal resistance offered by the body. Okay, against the deformations due to applied loads or applied forces per unit area is nothing but stress. Okay, so because the first criteria that will be happens is nothing but deformation. Okay, so against the deformation, but that body will not don't wants to deform it. Okay, so it offers some resistance. Okay, so as you applied, if it is completely continuously deforms, means it is not having any resistance, means it is no resistance, the body is not offering any resistance. If you apply load, simply it is go on resistance, deforming means it is not offering any resistance. But if you apply a load, if your body is not deforming, okay, not deforming, so then that is nothing but it is offering some resistance. Okay, okay, due to that applied load, for that applied loads per unit area is nothing but the stress. Okay, so it is the force acting on unit cross section area. Generally stress is denoted with the letter sigma or f. Generally this general term sigma and f are stress terms, but specifically speaking, if you go to the in detail of this subject, generally bending stresses are denoted with the sigma or f, whereas shear stresses are denoted with the letter tau. Okay, there are different types of stresses: shear stress, bending stress. Okay, so bending stress will be denoted with the sigma or f, whereas shear stresses will be denoted with the letter tau. Right, but in general term, stress is denoted with letter sigma or f. So external force is denoted by P, units for which Newton or kilonewton. So force units are already we know, so newtons or kilonewtons. So cross section units for which is millimeter square, so or meter square. So what is the force? Stress is equal to what? Stress is equal to simple terms we can just force per unit area. Okay, but if when somebody is asking you to define the stress, but don't say that force per unit area. Okay, it is not only mathematical expressing the stress. Okay, so because stress cannot be directly calculated or estimated, so we have to use something, some formula we need it, some mathematical equations we need it to uh, compute the stress, means or to calculate the stress. That mathematical is nothing but force per unit area. Okay, that is only a mathematical expression, right? So only but not the definition. That is not the definition. Stress is equal to force by unit area is not a definition. Only there is a mathematical expression to calculate the stress, to estimate the stress, because stress cannot be directly estimated. If you apply a load on this any member, so directly we cannot say how much stress it is offering or how much resistance it is offering. Directly we cannot say. We cannot see, we cannot measure it also. Direct measurement is not possible. Only thing is we can estimate in indirect way. Okay, indirect way means by knowing the how much load we are applying and on what area we are applying the stress. So knowing that force and area of cross section, then we can able to find out the stress. That is only estimation purpose. We use the formula stress is equal to force per unit area, not the definition. So sigma is equal to P by A, right? So units of stress is nothing but P by A. P is nothing but load. Load units are newtons or kilonewtons. Area units are Newton, meter square or millimeter square or centimeter square, like that. Okay. So general units are the SI units of stress is nothing but Pascal. PA is nothing but Pascal. Okay, one Pascal or megapascal. MPa is nothing but megapascal. Kn is nothing but kilonewton per meter square. Okay, megapascal. Mega means it is 10 to the power 6. Okay, kilo means 10 to the power 3. Mega means 10 to the power 6. Giga means 10 to the power 9. Tera means it is 10 to the power 12. Okay, these are the general way of expressing the different loads if you are on higher values. Generally, Pascal is equal to how much? 1 Pascal is equal to 1 Newton per meter square. Okay, so 1 megapascal is equal to MPa means megapascal. Megapascal means mega means 10 to the power 6. So that we are going to have it. So relation between Pascal and megapascal, 1 megapascal is equal to, if we calculate, so that will comes to 1 Newton per mm square. Okay, 1 megapascal is equal to 1 Newton per mm square. How we get it is just easy. So 1 megapascal is nothing but mega means 10 to the power 6, right? So it is 10 to the power 6 Pascal. 1 megapascal is 10 to the power 6 Pascal. And if you Pascal means how much it is Newton per meter square. Pascal means Newton per meter square. Simply, if you Newton means if you keep it Newton like that only. If you meter square, if you convert into millimeter square, so 1 meter is equal to how many millimeters? So 1 meter is equal to 1000 millimeters. So 1000 means 10 to the power of 3. So 10 to the power of 3 whole square in denominator. 10 to the power of 3 whole square means 3 to the 6. So 3 to the 6 means it is nothing but 10 to 6. Denominator 10 to the power of 6, numerator 10 to the power of 6. Both get cancelled and remaining is nothing but 1 Newton per mm square. So that's how we will generally conversion of megapascal into 1 Newton per mm square. Similarly, we use the kilopascal, gigapascal like this. Kilo means 10 to the power of 3, giga means 10 to the power of 3, mega means 10 to the power of 6. Right? So these are these general terms. Generally, we use it right in denominator. So so Pascal is generally what we use the most frequently. These units of Pascal and megapascals. Okay, coming to the derivation. So I will I will write here how to convert into. So here it is. The conversion is not shown here. So only 1 megapascal here it is shown into 1 10 to the power 6 Pascal. Okay. So this is right. Now let us see how to convert how it is now. What is this now? Sorry. So what is this? How to convert this one? So is equal to. So what we say? So is equal to 1 megapascal is equal to 10 to the power 6. As we already know, it is here, right? So here it is equal to. I will write here only so that we can save time. Right. So it is 10 to the power of 6. Okay. So 10 to the power of 6 newtons. Pascal means Newton per meter square. Right. Newton per meter square. Sorry. This meter square assume it. So we cannot able to write it properly. Right. So 10. Sorry. Newton per meter square here. So here it is 10 to the power of Newton per. So if you similarly, if you want to convert newtons, you keep it as it is. What is the conversion we need? From megapascal to Newton per millimeter square, we need the conversion, right? So for that one, what we need to do? So 10 to the power of is nothing but 10 to the power of 6. You keep it like that only. Okay. So into. So it is Newton's numerator. Keep it like that only. So it is no. And in denominator, what we have to do? So convert this meter square into millimeter square. So 1 meter is equal to how many millimeters? So we already know that 1 meter is equal to 1000 millimeters. 1000 millimeters means. So 1000 means how much? 10 to the power of 3. Right. So 10 to the power of 3. 1000. And again, square is there. So 10 to the power of 3 square millimeter square. Okay. Now is it okay? How to convert this meter square into millimeter square? So it is yeah, I'm keeping it 10 to the power 6 as it is, and newtons also as it is, because I want in newtons only. So I want to keep it newtons as it is, and only I want to convert this meter square into millimeter square. So meter square is nothing but how to 1 meter is meter into what? Meter into millimeters. So meter is equal to how many millimeters? 1 meter is equal to 1000 millimeters, right? So the 1 meter is equal to 1000 millimeters. 1000 means 10 to the power of 3. 1000 means 10. We can write in another way 10 to the power of 3. So 10 to the power of 3 like that only. So it is again square is there because meter square is there. So again I am keeping it meter into like that one. Okay. Now in this one it is nothing but 3 to the 6. So 3 square means sorry 3 into 2. 3 into 2 is 6. Right. So it is 10 to the power of 6 here. So again if you write here another way, so it is 10 to the power of 6 will be like as it is, right? So 10 to the power of 6 newtons, right, in denominator. So millimeters will be as it is, right? Millimeter square, because here it is millimeters, we are converted newtons here, so millimeters here. So now what is the denominator? What is the numerical value? So 10 to the power 3 square. 10 to the power 3 square means 10 to the power 6. Okay. So numerator 10 to the power 6, denominator 10 to the power 6. So what happens? Both will be equal. So both are same. So we get cancelled. So what is the remaining? So 1 megapascal is equal to, so 1. Both remaining, what is the remaining? 1. So 1 Newton per mm square. This is the explanation. This is how you can convert from one unit to other unit. So 1 megapascal is equal to how much? 1 Newton per mm square. Similarly, like this way, you can convert into any. So 1 megapascal into how many kilopascals? Like that also you can convert. So 1 megapascal into, so how many kilonewton per meter square? Like that, you can convert anyway as per your requirements. So we can convert into anything. Right? Now let us summarize what we have discussed so far. So it is what we have discussed. So we in this one mainly we have discussed about the stress. So what is the stress? Stress is nothing but it's an internal resistance exerted by the body to resist the applied force or applied load per unit area. Okay. So it's nothing but stress. We are calling it the stress is nothing but internal resistance set up or exerted or developed in the body. Okay. Against the deformation against the deformation due to applied loads per unit area is nothing but internal resistance. So what is the formula? So mathematical formula, mathematical expression, so nothing but sigma is equal to P by A. So but it is not when you are asked to, again I am repeating again and again. So when you are asked to what is stress means, don't say that stress is nothing but when you are, especially in the interview questions, especially. So if someone asks you to what is stress means, don't say that it is load by area directly. Okay, there is only an estimation. How to estimate the stress is nothing but using this mathematical expression, that is equivalent. Okay, we are saying that that's an equivalent, that is a sigma is equal to, we can using this expression we can only calculate the how much stress that will be developed in the member. Okay, so that is nothing but P by A. Okay, mathematical expression, but there is actually not the definition. So units of, what are the units of stresses? So units of stresses are Newton per meter square, Newton per millimeter square, or kilonewton per meter square, or pascals. You can use any term. Okay. So load by area. So it can be Newton per centimeter square, it can be foot per centimeter square. So it can be anything. So not foot per centimeter square. So it is this is pounds per centimeter square, like that. Okay, it is in FPS or some other units. So there can be any different ways of that, but in generally we express in newtons. Okay, so Newton per meter square and Newton per millimeter square or kilonewton per meter square, like this we generally we use this one, right? So what is the internal resistance exerted by the body to resist the applied force, or is called strain, external load, stress, hardness? What is the answer? Stress. So stress is nothing but, this is the definition of the stress. Stress is denoted with what letter? Sigma or F. We use the any one. One value of megapascal is equal to what? How much? 1 Newton per mm square, 10 Newton per mm square, 11 Newton per mm square, or 1 Newton per meter square. How much it is? 1 Newton per mm square. The value of gigapascal is, what is my gigapascal? 10 to the power of 9, 10 to the power of 3, 10 to the power of 6, or 10 to the power of 2. How much it is? It's nothing but 10 to the power of 9. Right? So 10 to the power of 3 is nothing but kilopascal, 10 to the power of 6 is nothing but gigapascal. The formula for stress is nothing but A by P by A, P into A, P by A square. So what is the formula? Mathematical equation to calculate the stress is nothing but P by A. Load is equal to stress is equal to load by area. P is nothing but general terms. These are general terms. Of course, when you are defining, asking the question, you should say that where P is the load, area is A is a cross section. Very specific. Okay, but in general, P is nothing but we use the term for load. and area refers to generally area. A refers to area. So definition of stress is generally right. So let us stop here.